In this lesson, we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting basics. Our objectives are to understand the add-subtract rules, to understand how to add and subtract integers, to understand how to add and subtract decimals, and to understand how to add and subtract fractions. Our vocabulary is place values, parts of numbers containing digits. This is where the numbers are in decimals and integers. Common denominator, same bottom number for fractions. So we want the bottom number, the denominator, to be the same, common amongst all when we're adding and subtracting. So first we need the rules. These right here are the rules for adding and subtracting that we'll go over in class. We're actually going to take some time to go over why these work the way they do. Please pause the video, make sure you get all 8 of these written down. Alright, now that you have the rules written down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 8 problems, one of each, based off of the rules. So I'm going to start with the simplest, 14 plus 8. This is based off of rule number 1, which is we just add them like we always have. So we would go 14 over 18, 4 and 8 make 12. Make sure you carry a 1 because the 10 in 12 is a tens place, so it's got to go into the tens place. 1, 1, and 1 make 3, so that is 32. Okay? Number 2 is based off of rule 2. So what we have here is 15 minus 19. So what we have to do is we have to look at which number is bigger. Well, 19 is actually bigger than 15, so we really want to do 19 minus 15. But because the second number is bigger, that means our answer is going to be negative based off of the way the problem started. So 19 minus 15 gives us 4, so our answer is actually negative 4. Number 3 is based off of rule 3. We have negative 8 minus 4. What we do is we actually add 8 plus 4 to give us 12. But rule 3 says because of this system, our answer is negative. So we have negative 12 there. Number 4 is the first time that the rules start kind of changing the problem. So in this one, what we do, because rule number 4 says to change adding a negative into just subtraction, this becomes 16 minus 4. Then what we do is we go back to rule 2 and treat this like rule 2 and go, okay, 16 minus 4, which number is bigger? 16 is bigger. So since our first number is bigger, we just leave it the way it is and subtract 16 minus 4 is 12. In number 5, we're going to again have to change the problem. Minusing a negative in rule 5 said to change it into 9 plus 11. Remember, the A's and the B's from the rules are just placeholders for numbers. So what we have is 9 plus 11. Now we can go back to rule 1 and treat it like that. So this is just 9 plus 11 equals 20. Number 6 takes a couple changes to it. First, we have to reorder because it's addition. So this becomes 14 plus negative 5. So what we do is we take 6, we reorder it, and then we look at number 4. Okay, this one says adding a negative turns into subtraction. So this becomes 14 minus 5. And then in number 4, once we've rearranged that, we go back to rule 2, and we would treat this based off of rule 2, which is we need to look at which one's bigger. 14 is bigger than 5, so we just subtract it the way it is and get a positive number. 14 minus 5 is 9. Okay, number 7 takes a little bit of work. The two negatives here tells us to turn it into negative 10 plus 17. Then this looks a lot like number 6. So we're going to then rearrange this into 17 plus negative 10. Now this looks a lot like number 4. We said to go to number 4. This turns into 17 minus 10. Now this looks like rule number 2, and we just do subtraction. We figure out which one's bigger, subtract, and that'll tell us whether it's a negative or a positive. 17 is bigger, first one's bigger, going to be a positive. 17 minus 10 is 7. Notice step 7 takes a lot of work. 7 and 8 take a lot of work if we see problems like that. Okay, so our last one is number 8. Negative 13 plus negative 17. The rule here tells us to go negative 13 minus 17. This then takes us back to step 3. Step 3 says just add them. 13 and 17 make 30, but it says to make your answer negative. So negative 30. Okay, this was our basics of integers. Now we're going to go on to decimals and fractions. So please keep along. We're going to use these same rules to do those still. We just have little tweaks that we have to do to the work. Okay, for the sake of time, I've just done 2 problems here. Our first one is negative 8.4 minus 16.9. It says, well, really we need to use our rules first. What we have to do is rearrange the problem if necessary. So based off of this, this fits rule number 3, which means we're just going to add these 2 numbers. So we're really just going to add 8.4 plus 16.9. And then our answer is just going to be negative based off of what our rules tell us. So we're going to add these, and the key with decimals is to line up the decimal. So 8.4 plus 16.9. Notice this now lines everything up. We have 4 and 9 that get added, make 13. We've got to bring the 3 up because it's not really a 13. It's really 1.3 that we're getting, so the 1 goes over to the 1's place. 1 and 8 make 9. 9 plus 6 makes 15. Again, that 1 has to come up here because it's now a 10's place. 1 and 1 make 2. So this is 25.3, but based off of our rules, negative and negative means this is going to be a negative answer based off of rule number 3, which is what it represents. Okay? This one here, a little bit different. So again, we have to use our rules. We can rewrite this as 7.32 minus 10.18. So now this looks a lot like our rule 2. So we need to figure out which number is bigger. Well, this one's a 10, this is a 7. So 10 is bigger. So we're going to take 10.18 minus 7.32. And whatever we get for an answer is going to be negative because the second number was bigger. So we're going to take 8 minus 2, which is 6. We're going to take 1 minus 3. But we can't do 1 minus 3. So we've got to borrow from the 0. Can't borrow from 0 because it's nothing. So we got to borrow from the 1. Make that a 0, make this a 10. Now we can borrow from 10, make it a 9, bring a 1 over. So now what we have is 11 minus 3, which is 8. Bring our decimal point down. We now have 9 minus 7, which is 2. And we have 0 minus 0, which is 0. So this is really just negative 2.86. The last version that we want to look at are fractions. And some of you might be wary of fractions. They're actually easier than you think with adding and subtracting. The main thing is to get common denominators and to change your numerators if you change the denominator. So 4 and 3. I like to use counting to find out common denominators. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. All of you can count by 4s. And then we want to count by 3s also. 3, 6, 9, 12. I can stop at 12 because they both make 12. So there's our common denominator. So I want to have a 12 here and a 12 here. So then the question is, how do you turn a 4 into a 12? Well, 1, 2, 3, we multiply by 3. Anything you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. Times by 3, so I get 3 on the top. How do I change a 3 into a 12? 1, 2, 3, 4. I times by 4. Got to do that to the top. 4 times 2 is 8. These symbols all go with the top numbers. So this negative is going to go up with the 3. This plus is going to go up with the 8. Now the math problem that we have to do is really just right here. Negative 3 plus 8, which is really the problem 8 minus 3. When we do our rules to it, use rules on numerators, 8 minus 3 is going to be 5. And here's the easy part. Just write the denominator that we had before. 5 over 12. We can reduce at the end if possible. Okay, another example. We've got 2 and 5. So again, I'm going to count by the numbers. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. If I don't find one, I can continue with this. 5, 10, okay. 10 was shared by both of them, so 10 is going to be my common denominator. Okay, how do I change a 2 into a 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Multiply by 5 on both top and bottom. It's going to give me a 25 here. Okay, how do I change a 5 into a 10? 1, 2. Multiply by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to put my signs up at the top. So my math problem is 25 minus negative 6, which is 25 plus 6 when we use our addition or add-subtract rules. 25 and 6 make 31. And again, keep our 10. If you can reduce, we reduce. Otherwise, we can just leave it the way it is, or you can turn it into a mixed number if you want. All right, I know that this is kind of a difficult subject. We're going to be working on this a lot in class. Make sure if you missed anything that you pause, rewind, watch again, and bring any questions to class. Thank you.